In the wild western wastelands of the Great White North, two gay lefty scumbags embark on an endless pursuit for the true meaning of wokeness. This is Woke in the West. Whoa. We are back!
What?
Woke in the West, episode 2! Dos.
Equis.
Yeah.
Wow, not a sponsor.
I could go for a Dos Equis right about now.
Whoa, not a sponsor.
Yes.
No. I would drink on air if they were sponsoring us.
I don't even know if that's my favorite beer. I don't think I have a favorite beer, to be honest.
Yeah, not really.
Welcome, Woke in the West, episode 2 with Nash and Eric. I am Eric.
And I am Nash.
And my co-host pointed out to me that we didn't actually do a proper introduction last episode. So let's do it now. My name is Eric, a voice actor and musician. And I hate to admit this, I actually used to be a Trump supporter. Back during the first term, and I was one of those 20-year-old right-leaning libertarians that seem to be a dime a dozen nowadays. And right up until the 2020 election, when Joe Biden obviously won and Trump obviously lost, and I'm like, well, I guess the show's over, guys. Time to pack things up. And we saw how that played out. Yep. And we saw how January 6th played out, and that's when I realized this is kind of messed up. And also, I'm a gay person, and I really shouldn't be supporting this ideology that goes against everything I am as a person. And now here I am as a leftist. So here we go.
Wow, good introduction.
Yay!
Yes.
Just laying all the cards out right on the table.
Well done. I am Nash, as previously stated. I'm also a musician. I work within city government of sorts. I work at like the recreation centers, and politically growing up, I kind of bounced around, and even still I have views that are both very far left and very far right, depending on the subject matter. Like I would say personally, I'd love to see Canada become a republic without being in the Commonwealth, and so that technically makes me a Republican.
I guess so,
in the most
yeah.
literal sense. So there are things about my own views that have changed a lot over time. But one of the things that I think has become core to my ideology, at least politically, is that the state or like the government, their job should be to make sure that the people that they manage are able to live their best life and have the most access to, improvements in their life or just quality of life stuff. And America is not a good example of that, but Canada, which is where we are on the West Coast, we're getting a little bit better at it. We have our free healthcare, but we're still working on the dental, and the pharmacare was getting better, and vision care, and all these little things I think 100% need to be covered. And that's sort of why I am where I am now politically, why I ran for the Greens in the federal election too, to try and point out the obvious holes among the proposals from both the Liberals and the Conservatives, and even the NDP, because that was why I ran as a Green, was because I was dissatisfied with the status quo. And now, well, Canada is in a different place than it was before the election, so I think that's a fairly decent explanation of sorts.
How we got to where we are now and why we're doing this podcast in the first place, really.
Well, the why we're doing the podcast is specifically so we can sort of shed light on the issues that are plaguing both the right and the left, because the thing that makes political dialogue, productive is when you're able to have a nuanced discussion about policy and not getting down in the weeds and insulting your opponents. And
there are people on the left that would call you worse than Hitler for even suggesting something like that.
If you have dialogue with a Republican, you might as well be Hitler. That seems to be a sentiment shared by some really troubled folks on the left. We've had some very unfortunate interactions with some of them recently. Yeah. And we will go into that.
We'll go into that quite a bit.
So I might have to rein myself in here, because otherwise I might go.
Just go off on it. No, don't worry. We'll get to that. There will be a time and a place. Trust me. Okay. So we have a lot to talk about, as Indeed. We were previously mentioning, and I think I'll let you take the reins on this, because you're a pro when it comes to this election stuff.
Yeah. So we're going to go first to Canada.
Canada first. Hey, woo!
Yes. So. Where are we at? Well, it's been like 2-3 weeks since the federal election. That was called early, thanks to new PM Daddy Mark Carney.
Woohoo!
But there have been 4 federal recounts. Some ridings have changed hands. It's been mostly positive for the Liberals, which have increased their share of the seats in the legislature to 170, which is just 2 seats shy of a majority now. So that's not bad. But there are recounts actively happening right now, such as in Newfoundland and Labrador. There's a riding in the Terra Nova Peninsulas area where there's like 1,000 disputed ballots, according to this article in the National Post. You know, how reputable they are, who knows? But it is true that there are recounts happening all over the country right now.
Man, they really want us to pay for ads on this website. This is the state of journalism in 2025, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, and we don't need to spend long on this site because they're probably just not going to be very nice to us because we're not doing that. But yes, it is a mandatory recount.
By the way, National Post, I'm pretty sure, is like bought out by American companies.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure it's an American site. So let's just go back to this nice, beautiful BBC article.
Beautiful. Yeah, I love me some BBC, don't you?
So yes, this one's saying exactly what I just said. Liberal Party's at 170, 2 seats shy right now. There's a couple recounts going on. The Terrebonne result, and I'm definitely not saying that right, but I don't care about French enough to even try. So, the Terrebonne riding flipped, so that was exciting. None of it seems to have stayed put. There's a riding in Ontario that is going through a recount right now. I don't have the name of that riding in front of me, but that's fine. And there was a fun little article somewhere there.
Oh, I think I deleted it by accident.
Yeah, there was like 800 votes from my riding in Port Moody, as well as your riding in Port Coquitlam that were uncounted. And the difference was so big, it's not going to make a difference. There just might be like 1 or 2 more votes for me in there. So we'll see if that gets added to the total. Because I'm still sitting at 519 for my candidacy. So that's pretty much what it is. There are recounts happening right now at this second. So chances are when we come back to this in our next show, there will be more information. I don't think any more seats will flip, but...
No, I think it's pretty set in stone.
I think it's probably pretty set in stone right now.
All right.
It's so set in stone, in fact, that Carney has already started picking his cabinet for this administration. And there are, there's a few Canadian podcaster and videos out there, type people that are going over every single member of the cabinet and, really getting into them. We're not going to do that here. We are going to only share our opinions about the one who comes from, closest
from
to
our
home.
territory.
Yeah. So the new Minister for Housing is Gregor Robertson.
Former mayor of Vancouver.
Yes, and one of the few people in Canadian political history to have served in all levels of government, municipal, provincial, and now federal, as the Liberal representative for, I don't even know what riding he is from, but...
Who cares?
Do you want to say why he's in the news?
Vancouver is kind of notorious for being one of the most expensive places to live, not just in Canada, but the world.
The world.
The whole globe. And Gregor Robinson was mayor during a lot of the escalation of that. I mean, it definitely started before his time in office. So it
was one of his, when he was running to be mayor of Vancouver, it was one of his campaign promises that he would end homelessness by 2015. And as we all know,
and look where we are now,
homelessness does not exist in Vancouver.
Unless you walk down Hastings Street, then it very much exists. But his appointment as housing minister definitely turned more than a few heads in the Canadian public, just because, that's kind of what he's known for, at least in Vancouver, as the expensive housing mayor. I mean, we have quite a few of those now because housing is just so ridiculously expensive in Vancouver.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of ironic having the mayor of one of the most unlivable, everyone keeps saying Vancouver is one of the most livable cities in the world, but I think that's bullshit if you can't buy a house there. So the mayor of one of the most unlivable cities in Canada is now the housing minister. That's so bizarre.
Yeah, and it seemed very obvious from the way that the reporters straight up asked him if housing prices needed to go down to impact the affordability crisis. His answer was basically just no.
Should we watch the clip?
Yeah, let's put this clip on.
Yeah, we've seen increases like that across Canada over the past decade. Certainly, since my time as mayor, We've seen a lot more movement here in Ottawa, and we've got great programs starting to work now. A housing accelerator program that's partnering with cities to deliver. I'm here to leverage my history as a mayor. I know what works on the ground. I wasn't getting the help I needed from the federal government when I was mayor, or the provincial government of all stripes.
I guess he would have been mayor when Harper was prime minister.
Yeah, I guess so.
And provinces all together.
So I guess that makes sense.
Making sure we're building enough supply, and that the federal government is focused on affordable housing, delivering that. Now, I think that we need to deliver more supply.
Yeah, that was smooth. No,
Yeah.
I think
It's a huge part of our economy. We need to be delivering more affordable housing. The government of Canada has not been building affordable housing since the 90s, and we created a huge shortage across Canada. That's where the big need is right now, and I'm
Yeah.
very encouraged that the Prime Minister and our commitment right now in government is to double construction and focus on the affordable side.
Yeah, so basically, the reporter straight up asked him, "Do you think housing prices should go down?" And he kind of dodged the question.
well, no, he said no.
He basically said no. Yeah,
But I think it's very much the phrasing of it, because the whole affordable question sort of, it doesn't address the supply issue, which is what he's talking about. And we also have to remember that, to become mayor of Vancouver, or even to be a politician to a degree, it's people that come from wealth, people that might own land already. And so when Gregor says, should housing prices come down? No. He's taking the side of like homeowners and landlords already in terms of like maintaining property values.
that's just kind of a default position.
Yes, but for him to try and pivot or realign the conversation to not be like, the solution to the housing crisis is not for your house to be worth less, but for there to be more supply. And so it's kind of ironic as well that in the bottom right on the screen right now, there's a suggested article about the more than 2,000 condos sitting empty in Metro Vancouver.
How appropriate.
Because they're making all these like garbage concrete box filled towers that are unaffordable and no one wants to live in. I even read an article, like 70% of people that put a down payment or whatever are just choosing to walk away.
Yeah.
Because they don't like it.
They're doing the same thing to me and my mom. Like, they're moving us into an apartment at the end of the year. They're tearing down our townhouse, and it's not a massive tower. It's only like 6 stories, but it's still a tiny little box.
I wouldn't call 6 stories a tower at all, but
No.
I haven't seen the unit.
Neither have we.
Yeah, they're being so weirdly coy about it. This is a government-backed housing.
I'm pretty sure.
building,
Yeah.
and they don't have any sort of plans or layouts posted online. They don't have like a clear deadline. It's so weird, and the supply is the biggest part of it. And I'd love to see the government like buy up these like terrible condos from these companies and like re-rent them, because it's not going to get better with them continuing to build. And so hopefully, with the impending recession and the American tariff glutton that's been slut upon us, then hopefully something will change, something will give.
Sounds good. Well, I mean, we've been saying that for so long now.
Yeah, we literally attended a time capsule party on Saturday, where I was at the first one sort of in 2017, and
it was my first time going.
Yeah,
and
fun. The host opened his letter, and one of the first sentences was like, "I hope that housing bubble is burst."
From 2015.
And I expect that it hasn't. And it hasn't, so I guess we'll just keep waiting, wishing on a star.
Here's a little tweet that we found that's kind of defending the way that Gregor Robertson answered.
Yeah, it's a light defense. This person, David Mosscrop, says, "I don't like Robertson, but in his defense, I've heard housing experts say this. We need a stable market followed by a higher proportional rise in income so we get long-term affordability. We also need a ton of non-market housing. The market isn't going to serve all," and that's correct. There's a term, the missing middle. I mentioned this last time.
Yeah.
And housing for families is a big thing too. We have all these governments, especially in America. And again, we are in Canada, so we love taking the piss out of America because they deserve it.
Yeah.
And the governments are like trying to figure out, how can we create conditions for people to want to have kids and all this stuff. And it's like, well, the answer is obvious. It's money, it's housing, and it's like, taking care of the people. And if this is a problem globally, every country in the world is starting to see not just inflation issues, but like birth rates and all this stuff go down. And these are things that are connected.
Yep.
And you have to start with providing the basic needs for human beings, and that includes shelter, and that
Yeah.
includes affordable housing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you know, trying to make them not a right and into a commodity is just,
yeah,
it's not the way to go about it. You know?
yeah, the commodification of housing, the whole like buying and selling of units and maximizing rental profits. It's kind of like profiteering is the word for it,
Yeah.
and it's really disgusting behavior. But
Every species of animal on this planet needs something, some kind of roof over their heads at the end of the day. I mean, with animals, it's different because they forage, but
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, humans are different too because we invented money, and now we
exactly
like trap people within a system where they are not able to acquire money because the system that was set up to give people money is not the system that benefits poor people or people without access to things, which is exactly why the government needs to set standards that charge or tax those with the wealth in such a way that it can be redistributed and benefit everyone in the country, because a country is not supposed to represent just the rich. It should represent everyone in it.
That's just more socialism talk.
Democratic socialism.
Sorry, I watched
Sorry.
too much Sesame Street growing up, I guess.
Yeah, Sesame Street is woke now.
Yeah, everything is woke now. If you have compassion and a soul,
You're woke.
that's woke. Yeah.
This is a funny little anecdote that because on the during Mark Carney's first talk with Trump, which I guess we didn't really pull up an article for, but yes, Mark Carney finally sat down with the big orange Cheeto in chief.
Yes,
down
chances
south.
are you've probably seen a little bit of it online because it went pretty viral, because
Yeah.
it was very clear that Carney was laying Trump into his position of being like, Canada is not for sale.
Having met with the owners of Canada over the course of the campaign last several months, it's not for sale, won't be for sale ever.
But never say never. Never say never.
And Trump's sort of like, yeah, I guess
so.
I
Takes
guess,
two to tango, I guess.
Yeah,
you
and
know?
Carney's like, Buckingham Palace isn't for sale. And Trump's like, that's true.
As you know from real estate, there are some places that are never for sale.
That's true.
We're sitting in one right now, Buckingham Palace, that you visited as well.
That's true.
So, yeah, evidently not everything is for sale all
And
the time.
Buckingham Palace is a lot like the White House.
But,
that's true too. The White House just like Buckingham Palace, the
not
big
for
fancy
sale.
palace, not for sale. That's true.
But people on the Canadian right, it seems to be like a prerequisite for being on the Canadian right that you just lack the ability to actually like discern true information from fake information. And that couldn't be more evident with this little clip here of a guy just kind of losing it on Carney, because Carney, during the interview with Trump, said that he spoke with the owners of Canada during the election period, and that Canada is not for sale. But
by owners of
people on the
Canada,
right,
he meant the citizens of Canada, like us,
voters,
you and me,
the taxpayers.
Yeah, the people who live here.
But that is not how a very particular sect of our political spectrum sees this. No, in fact, let's see.
Of Canada, Canadians want to know who's the owners of Canada and America. You told that to Donald Trump. Who are they?
He's like smiling.
Who are the owners of
He's like,
Canada?
who's this
who
idiot?
are the people in charge? Is it Jeff Bezos? Is it Obama?
Is it Obama?
And okay, I got to show you the the comments down below. The first
means
comment,
the voters,
bro. And then the poster replied, "Nobody. That's not what he meant. For fuck's sakes, you can't be that stupid." And oh my god, the replies are just, I don't want to reply to this douchebag. That's what he meant. You really are stupid.
Yeah, these people are stupid, and it's playing into their deluded, self-image. Is
Your brain is dust spores.
It's literally why all these like right-wing chuds feel like they are like the saviors of society and humanity, because they're like, no, bro, can't you see the truth? Can't you see?
Can't you see the machinations behind everything, bro? It's just like the Matrix. That's what Andrew Tate said.
Yeah, everything is a matrix.
Yeah.
Funny
it's
little
so
anecdote.
diluted.
It's amazing, but anyway.
Okay. Let's see what's going on over in Alberta, shall we?
Yeah, those cranky little oil suckers are wanting to separate from the rest of Daddy Canada.
Danielle Smith, she's been throwing a little tantrum ever since Mark Carney got in. And although she did apparently talk to him recently, and the talks went well, whatever that means. But yeah, they're going to try to hold a...
she knows how terrible Alberta's position is.
Yeah, she knows. Oh yeah,
from a negotiating standpoint. But there's a whole lot of, again, deluded, self-important right-wing fanatic people that don't understand how economics work,
Don't understand how anything works.
don't
really.
understand partnerships, don't understand trade. They don't understand anything except what it takes to get angry. And they're really angry at the Liberals right now in general because they didn't get their pee-pee-poo-poo prime minister like they were hoping for.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a large sect of Alberta, or not even that large really, maybe like a tenth of Alberta, who is like, yeah, we should separate.
And this up on screen here is a little cease and desist letter from the Cree Nations that popped
Yes.
up as soon as these talks started, being like, actually, this is our land. We were
Yes.
here first.
Much of Western Canada was not actually taken through agreements with the natives. The land is unceded. That's why we have all these land acknowledgements usually at the start of like ceremonies and stuff, because there was no agreement. There was no contract. There was no sale. We just sort of showed up and moved in.
Yeah.
And now these same entitled people, which I mean, I could characterize as mostly being white, which would be true. But like these entitled people now think that because...
Except for their necks, which are red. Very red.
I mean, that's just because they don't wear sunscreen, but they wear cowboy
Because
hats.
sunscreen is woke or something.
Yeah. Well, sunscreen is woke, but... but basically, yeah. So these people who's entitled... It's basically like whiter Texas with the mentality of like Venezuela, where they think that they can run an economy on 90% oil and gas, but that is not sustainable. And yes, this is a cease and desist from the Cree Nation, but there was some other stuff here as well. Like I liked this clip here on screen is the Bloc Québécois leader, Yves-François Blanchet, addressing the Alberta separatist question.
The first idea is to define oneself as a nation. Therefore, it requires a culture. And I am not certain that oil and gas qualify to define a culture.
Yeah, and that's exactly correct.
Yeah. Also, I just want to say I love that you compared them to Venezuela in terms of oil and gas, because a lot of Albertans would have your head for even comparing them to a socialist country like Venezuela, right?
Oh, I know. They really love America. They kind of are the most...
That's their culture, honestly.
interested-
They're just Texas 2.0.
It's North
That's
Texas.
that's North Texas. That's their culture.
Yeah, and the demands from the separatists from Alberta have been completely unhinged. They have, in their proposal, have said that they would like to keep the Canadian dollar, they'd like to keep their Canadian passports, and they'd like to keep their payouts from the Canadian pension plan if they break away. So if they get their question on the ballot, which would be, do you want Alberta to be a separate country distinct from Canada, or whatever their exact wording is, yes or no? If it's a yes, their request in the negotiations for separation are that they get to keep all of these perks and benefits that for being a part of this union.
That's not much of a separatist movement, then, is it?
You can, like, the people behind this movement are like the most terminally online single 40-year-old like white men in Alberta, because they're not even like people that have gone through divorce, because if they went into negotiations being like, we get to keep everything and you get nothing, they would be laughed at by every lawyer in the country. So these are just people that are so detached from like what it takes to actually participate in a society that they think that they are like blood entitled to this stuff that they are literally taking for granted, because they can't even like process what it takes to pay into this system.
Don't we like subsidize their oil anyway?
Yes.
So like, what are we even talking about here?
Refineries here. They ship the crude to the U.S. at a discount, and then we buy it back refined. It's a terrible system, and it's something that I'd like to see ended. So hopefully we can end fossil fuel subsidies. But Alberta,
that's pretty much it for Canada, I guess, at least for now.
Yeah,
I guess we'll have to wait until we were going to talk about the by-election with little PP big poopy pants, but that hasn't really happened yet. We'll have to see what happens on the ground floor once that starts running. We'll have to do maybe a by-election special if it's on a week that we're off or something.
I had wanted to potentially put my name in the ring for the by-election because of the longest ballot initiative. They want to put a bunch of names on the ballot again. And I was thinking about that, but I seem to have missed my window, so... Whoopsie-doodle.
All right, let's talk about everywhere else, I guess.
There's other places in the world?
Yeah.
Other than Canada, the greatest country on earth?
Yeah. You do me proud.
Lies.
All right. Joe Biden's got cancer.
Wow.
What is he, a fucking cancer?
Our first stop on this trip is America, and Biden has a cancer.
Look at him. He's so sad. Look at him.
He's so sad.
He's so sad.
And it seems like the American mainstream, or should I say lamestream media, is really running with the idea that Joe Bodie only found out about this cancer like 2 days ago. And that it's not at all related to Jake Tapper's book coming out in a few days, or actually, no, it comes out today, about Biden's failing health in the lead up to the 2024 presidential election, and how like they were even considering bringing him out in a wheelchair. And
well, I mean, his mental health was definitely in decline. There's no question about
together,
that. But
we can defeat Medicare.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mr. President.
Mr. President, there's been some rumors that, you know, that you're mentally unfit for office. Donald Trump's been saying that you're mentally unfit.
Listen to him.
This concludes tonight's press conference. Thank you, everybody.
Remember that? That he just walks off?
Him.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, so Biden has cancer. How long will he last? I don't know, but it's
pretty aggressive, apparently.
It's not stage 9, because that's what Trump said, and that's wrong. But it's in like the 9th phase of some sort of cancer, because it's on his bones now. It went to his bones. So
bones. He's got
when you get
cancer
the bone
bones.
cancer, when you get the cancer bones, I don't think that's good.
No, but, you know, he's rich, so he'll get good treatment.
Yeah,
I wish that like rich politicians like this that get cancer, they get the same treatment as like average Americans get, but that's not going to happen. So yeah, rip Joe Biden. He's probably not long for this world.
Like that song, "Rest in Peace, Joe Biden." I know he ain't dead, but I know it's coming up.
Is that a song? Who did
that? Yeah, that's like a lyric in a song, but he says Betty White's name instead. That's from a few years ago.
Right. Rest in peace.
Trump managed to make a somewhat non-terrible statement about Biden having cancer. Trump Jr., meanwhile, put out a statement where he's like, "It's crazy that Dr. Jill Biden didn't notice." She's a teacher, though.
Come on,
she's not a medical doctor. So just FYI, in case you saw that and thought, "Gee, that's stupid." Now you know.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Some craziness as well coming out of Trump's mouth. He seems to be interested in opening or reopening Alcatraz prison off the coast of San Francisco.
Going back to Alcatraz.
And it seems like this delusion was inspired by
him watching a movie or something.
Yeah, him watching Escape from Alcatraz with Clint Eastwood on PBS in Florida. And I shared this article into a local right-wing cesspool of a chat. And some of the right-wing people were like, "Oh, we can't find it on the TV guide. It's not there." And I found it in like 2 minutes. And I'm like, no, actually, it's true. Here it is. So, yeah, it seems like Trump just likes to sit and watch TV when he's not golfing and regurgitate those ideas.
His whole presidency is just based on his daily whims.
For the love of God, don't show him Idiocracy.
Oh, my God. He's not going to find anything wrong with it. He's just going to be like, this is
no,
just how
he's going to
is.
find it aspirational.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
There's not enough religion.
He's going to think about what kinds of money the government could save if we stopped providing people with fresh drinking water and provided them with Gatorade or something.
One thing Idiocracy got wrong is that there's not enough Jesus in Idiocracy. We're living in the Idiocracy timeline, except there's like a healthy dosage of religious fundamentalism on top of the stupidity.
Yeah. And
isn't that wonderful?
And the religious fundamentalists don't even seem to understand the themes of the text in which they claim to worship. We'll get into this in a second, but there is a new pope.
Yes.
Who's American, who already was disagreeing with the vice president, J.D. Vance. So the guy who is claimed to be a proud Catholic is literally being told off by the head of the Catholic Church. So
hilarious.
This is not just Idiocracy, but it's absolutely like the most despondent, like dissonant era of American political like dialogue. So let's move on with the rest of the world. And
this is a couple quick clips that showcase the
yes, there's a lot of incompetence
of the Trump administration. But we got two clips in particular that really like show how it's going, how it started versus how it's going.
I like,
you know what I mean?
Okay, this isn't even related, but the clip we're about to play is of Kash Patel's hearing at the Senate for the budget in front of the Budget Committee, and I'm just like, I didn't know that his full name was Cashy App. It sounds like what an Australian would call Cash App.
Cash App?
Cash
App?
Cashy App.
Oh, no. My Cash App crashed. My app crashed.
I didn't know that his full name was Cashy App or Cashy App.
Okay, so this is the budget.
Last week, by law.
I understand.
And your answer is you just understand. You're not going to follow the law.
My answer is that I am following the law, and I'm working with my interagency partners to do this and get you the budget that you are required to have.
And you have no timeline?
No.
We also need a full budget request, not a single paragraph full of wild talking points that we saw with the skinny budget proposal. We're now having a budget hearing without a budget request. So, Director Patel, where is the FY 2026 budget request for the FBI?
It's being worked on, ma'am.
Have you reviewed it? Have you approved it?
Not yet.
When will we get it?
As soon as I can get it.
You'll get it when you get it. Shut up, bitch.
Yeah.
Basically, that's basically what he's saying. No timeline.
We as Congress do our budget and our work without that request and without the spend plan.
Well, ma'am, I'm here. I'm doing the best I can. I can't.
I'm trying my best, okay?
She clocked him. He doesn't care.
Yeah.
That is
He wants a blank check.
and deeply disturbing.
Yeah.
Deeply disturbing.
It's not professional.
No response.
I've given my response.
Well,
Like, this is like the fundamentals of running a government is delivering a budget on
These
time.
bozos are literally too stupid.
You can't even fucking submit a budget.
Yeah, the fact that Kash Patel even got confirmed by the Senate is disgraceful, really.
Oh, here
But
we
it
go.
doesn't end there.
Everyone's favorite dog killer. Christy Nope.
Yeah, this is from like literally today. Christy Noem went in front of the Senate again, and this time she got asked point blank, what is habeas corpus? And she did not know.
The White House Deputy Chief of Staff recently said that the Trump administration is actively looking at suspending habeas corpus. Last week you were asked about this, and I want to clarify your position because it's obviously really important to get this right. So, Secretary Noem, what is habeas corpus?
Well, habeas corpus is a constitutional right that the president has to be able to remove people from this country.
Nope.
Suspend their right
Habeas
to.
corpus, excuse me, that's incorrect.
President
Habeas
Lincoln
corpus,
used it.
excuse me. Habeas corpus is the legal principle that requires that the government provide a public reason for detaining and imprisoning people. If not for that protection, the government could simply arrest people, including American citizens, and hold them indefinitely for no reason. Habeas corpus is the foundational right that separates free societies like America from police states like
North Korea.
As a senator from
Good example.
or die state, this matters a lot to me and my constituents and to all Americans. So, Secretary Noem, do you support the core protection that habeas corpus provides, that the government must provide a public reason in order to detain and imprison someone?
Yeah, I support habeas corpus. I also recognize that the President of the United States has the authority under the Constitution to decide if it should be suspended or not.
It has never
Let
been,
us be clear, though,
it has
that this
never
president...
been done. It has never been done without approval of Congress. Even Abraham Lincoln got retroactive approval from Congress.
Yeah, I don't think that the retroactive.
whose decision was
I don't think the retroactive argument is a good argument because it's literally proof to the right that they don't need permission to do it. They can ask for permission after. So
Yeah.
it's not great that precedent's already been set.
I mean, Lincoln was a Republican, so I guess
That's
I
true.
guess that falls into character technically.
But yeah, Kristi Noem was a big dumb idiot who doesn't know anything and never deserved to have been elected governor of North Dakota.
Shooting your dog in the face should be like a non-qualifier, like immediately. Like
she wrote about it in her own biography, like she was proud of it.
Yeah, I shot my dog and I was proud.
Yeah,
little bitch wouldn't stop yapping.
And then when she's out there, she shoots her dog, and she's like, "You know what? I got the gun out. Might as well shoot a goat too." So she shot a goat.
She
right
did?
out. Yeah. She's like, "Well, we got a problem, goat.
Oh, I got some goat meat.
Yeah,
Yummy.
Deal with it, and puppy meat. It's like veal.
Oh. Don't say that. Oh
yeah,
my God.
It's so yeah. There you go. The clown show that is America. The clown car keeps honking its way. All these clowns, all these goofballs.
New Pope time!
Yeah.
It's the new Pope!
It's not Trump.
It is the new Pope!
The new Pope is not Trump. If you're looking at the video feed here, this was a disgusting little AI picture shared on the official White House Twitter account.
Woo!
That is a photo that Trump shared on his Truth Social account of an AI picture of him as the Pope. Because I'm sure he really wanted it, and there were so many jokes in the lead up to the Pope announcement of it.
Some guy in the comments says Trump is the Antichrist.
I mean, they're not wrong that Trump is the Antichrist, but Yeah, like he really wants religious people, Christians and Catholics, to like him, but he doesn't have respect for anyone. So he doesn't care if you hold anything sacred because he will laugh at it.
Yeah, a lot of people on the right not happy with this photo.
Yeah. And a lot of people more than happy to be like, ha, you're being sensitive now. You're not even religious. But I guess in a way, Trump got what he wanted because they have elected Leo the 14th.
No Pope Pizzaballa.
Yeah, no Pope Pier Battista Pizzaballa. So we got Pope Leo, who is Cardinal Prevost in previously. He was appointed as cardinal by Francis, so he's a really recently ordained, I guess you could say.
69 years old.
He's
Nice.
69. Very nice. He's the first U.S.-born
Yeah,
Pope.
American Pope. I bet they love that.
Not the first English-speaking Pope, because there was a Pope elected from England like a bajillion years ago in the old times. But yeah, he's been a guy who's been in the church for a long time. He's worked in Peru. He has a brother in Chicago that made headlines because they've been sort of like, wow, we don't get to see each other very much. And there's been a couple cute moments there.
There was that video where like the Pope called his brother and is like, why haven't you returned my calls?
Yeah, the Pope calls his brother live on the camera feed, and the first words out of the Pope's mouth is like,
Well, why don't you answer your phone?
Well, first you need to know you're on the air right now.
So like there is some humanization of the Pope going on here, but not to say he isn't without a spotless record of sorts.
Yeah, should we show the next article here? In case you're wondering, the new Pope is in fact not woke. No woke Pope, or at least less woke than the last one.
I think less woke. I don't know if I'd go so far as to say that Prevost is giving me strong Republican conservative energy.
Just the same old Catholic crap.
But I think when he says family values, he actually means like that in more of like the less politicized way. So if he's like saying, oh yeah, gay people can't be married in the eyes of the church, that's not exactly a new position.
No.
And if he's saying that gay people adopting children isn't exactly a family unit, again, that's not a new position either.
Yeah, there's for those of you who are just listening, we have an article on screen here that says Pope Leo XIV affirms family is based on union between a man and a woman, and the unborn has inherent dignity. So just same
this
pro,
is very traditional.
Yeah.
So will he
same old
up?
shit.
And this is old too, at least from what we saw when we reviewed this earlier. These are sort of comments from 2012.
No, this in particular is from a recent interview, I think.
How recent?
Affirmed Friday. So last Friday.
Oh wow, okay.
So he still holds these views. We were looking at some older articles that interviewed him from like 2012, 2013, and he it's pretty much the same.
Yeah.
So he hasn't really moved very much on these issues, unfortunately. But it's nothing new from the Catholic Church, really.
Yeah. And Francis already made it very clear that, who am I to judge what consenting adults do? And maybe that's what Prevost is sort of getting at without saying it out loud, but saying that the church recognizes the family unit between a man and a woman more so than the church recognizes any sort of, queer identity, which, I'm not defending. I'm a queer person. We are very queer.
Yeah, we're both very queer.
And that's why I'm not defending the church, but I'm saying that's not a radically new position for him to say. No. Actually, in the eyes of Jeebus, man, woman, child. That's not new.
I mean, it is a step backward compared to the last pope, I think, but that
not
does
as big
suck.
a step as it could have been, and it's still early. So hopefully he will move on this a little bit. Italy, actually, I believe right now, not totally related to him, or maybe the Catholic Church a little bit, because Italy has her own sort of far-right leader right now, right? Giorgia Meloni, the prime minister. And Italy, I believe, is now at the bottom of the rankings for LGBT rights across Europe.
Really?
Union.
Wow.
At least without going into like Eastern Europe and stuff. From what I
the more kind of liberal Western Europe.
Yeah, because the UK was second from the bottom, I think.
Wow.
Like the UK was at the top of this ranking before. This was some ranking that came out like a week or so ago that had all the European countries ranked. So are things moving forward or sliding backwards? I guess
it feels like a tug of war right now. Like
it is very much
gain
a tug of
ground, we
war.
lose ground. We're kind of just stagnating in the middle here.
Yep, 2 steps forward, 3 steps back.
2 steps forward, 2.5 steps back.
Yeah.
2.25 steps forward.
But as long as we keep trying to go forward,
8 steps back,
we won't only be going backwards, and that's important. And the fight is what is most important, really.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's pretty much most of the Pope-related stuff, but there has been a whole slew of stuff all over the world.
All over Europe, in particular.
Yes, though, as well, there's been 4 big elections since our last
we touched on the Australia election last time. And
briefly.
You'll be glad to know that the centrist also won in Australia.
The dust is settled there.
They got their own Mark Carney now.
Yeah, he was the incumbent. He didn't switch out with anyone, so it was the incumbent. But the guy he was running against, Pierre, lost his seat after 24 years.
History repeats itself a week later.
Interesting trend. But did this hold up with the rest of the elections that happened in Europe? A little bit. So Poland, their candidate that's sort of the center-left guy who is the mayor of Warsaw, which I think we can all agree is the biggest city in Poland. And the mayor of Warsaw,
the one everyone knows,
is now the leader of Poland, the country, and he seems to be a pretty chill guy. I have Polish friends and fans of my own who told me that they were rooting for him. So glad to see that seems to work out. In Portugal, the right-wing party has taken the most seats in their election, but not a majority. And I believe I'd read previously that Portugal has had 3 elections in the last 3 years because the governments haven't been stable and unable to form coalitions. So maybe this is not the end of the story for Portugal, but for now, it's kind of still, no one's got a majority, so move on. Romania as well, they had a pro-EU candidate as well as a more Russia-backed candidate, and it appears that the pro-EU forces have prevailed, at least according to this Al Jazeera article that sort of surmises everything that happened in these elections. So Portugal, of course, getting that center-right governing, securing a parliamentary win. It's important that Romania's got their pro-EU leader now because they are in the EU, I believe.
Seems to be a pattern that the right keeps losing, but they are doing better than we'd like to admit.
It's because the issues that they are crying about are not actually being adequately addressed in a way that satisfies the majority of people.
Oh, hi, Jack Nicholson.
It's just some
look at his sad old bloated
Who
man.
Who cares if Jack Nicholson lives alone in Britain? Because he's retired. Who cares? Exactly. He can do whatever he wants. He can.
Now someone can throw cheeseburgers over his fence, just like he did for Marlon Brando. Mm-hmm. It'll be a beautiful thing.
It's his life. He can do whatever he wants. He can, just waste away in his home like Gene Hackman did for a few weeks before anyone finds him.
Yeah.
It's his life. He can do what he wants. So. But that's more or less it for the European elections. There's been a good swing mostly to the left or at least a center-left idea in Europe. And I would say Poland and Romania are Eastern European. And so it's interesting that Portugal in the West is the one that seems to have swung a little bit more to the right. But
yeah, I wasn't really expecting that.
But again, it's not a majority. It's not close to forming government, so it's probably still too early to say exactly what's going on there.
Yeah, I think that's it for the election
stuff. Pretty much it, but we're still traveling around the world. Wow.
All around the world,
and now,
same song.
We're in Israel.
Look at this stone-faced killer on the screen right now.
Bibi Netanyahu is currently on the screen. There was an article or a letter published today with Canada, the UK, and France saying, hey, Israel, you better cut out this
Stop it.
Ground invasion.
Stop it.
Stop, please, or we'll have to get serious. And
we'll have to actually do something.
Netanyahu is so terrified of any criticism that he said that this stupid letter that doesn't do anything is a huge prize to Hamas because the Hamas did a genocide against Israel. Didn't you know that? Hamas is doing a genocide. They're the ones doing the genocide, not Israel, not the ones blowing up hospitals, women, and children. No, they're not the ones doing a genocide. Hamas.
Yeah.
When they killed...
Hamas blew up a rock concert. They're the genociders.
Yeah, Hamas blew up a rock concert and killed 300 soldiers. Therefore, genocide. No. Sorry, Bibi. You're not going to be able to pull these crocodile tears for that much longer with luck. The EU also voted on a resolution today that did pass to investigate Israeli ties and stuff like that. We, not totally related, but we also watched Eurovision.
Yeah, I was just about to say that
in the last few days, and it became very clear that Israel had vote bought all of the televote points from every country in Europe that didn't have a law requiring ID to buy a SIM card, which is not something we have here in Canada, and I don't think is in the States either. But there is at least, I think, 3 countries in Europe that you need an ID to purchase a SIM card. And those were the only countries that did not give any points to Israel.
Yeah, so it makes you wonder, maybe we should have a law like that because it seems to work.
So
but
Israel is doing a really big money campaign to sort of, greenwash, whitewash their genocide right now.
But what really complicates things with Eurovision is that their sponsor at the moment is Moroccan Oil, which is an Israeli company, despite the very misleading name.
Yeah, I mean, well, if they called it Jew oil, it wouldn't sell.
Oh, God.
So that's not an anti-Semitic comment.
It really wouldn't sell.
No, but it's weird that they have to do that. Like, they have to launder their own image through
with an Arabic country, that
country names. Like, they have to hide it. But why?
Because their brand is just poison.
It is.
Speaking of poison, so yeah, Moroccan Oil's contract with Eurovision expires this year.
Allegedly up this year.
So they're kind of on the chopping block here because every other country in Eurovision really doesn't like the fact that Israel's there. In my opinion, they shouldn't even be there because they're not a European country; they're a Middle Eastern country. Yeah. Fucking Australia is more European than Israel is.
Yeah, and they are also in Eurovision.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that Israel is mostly only in Eurovision because they didn't really have any European friends in the region that they're in, and Europe felt bad in the 60s and was like, hey, do you want to join our little song contest? So, but it's really sad because this week, Israel is launching their largest ground-scale invasion of Gaza that we've seen in some time, and there's already been hundreds of deaths, and it's just waiting for this to... When is it going to be enough of a fever pitch that anyone actually starts to care in a way that we cut Israel off? Because they are getting away with this right now. They are just having a ball, though there was some hope, I guess, in the media that Trump was supposedly ending his relationship with Netanyahu, that there was some sort of a rift between them.
Little lover spat going on.
Yeah, so I'm not sure what that's about. We're already through with the America stuff, but he went on a trip to like the UAE, Qatar, and those sort of Gulf state countries, but he didn't go to Israel. So there is definitely something going on there, but Bibi is going to carry on with his baby killing campaign as if nothing is happening, as if all the Western world is okay with it. And if our leaders continue to be
Canada is technically okay with it according to the leaders.
Yeah. If our leaders continue to be spineless about it, then it will continue and more people and children will die. So I guess Bibi will get what he wants. More dead brown kids. Yay. But you know what? We're the only podcast that's willing to say Kanye West was right.
About this thing.
One specific instance where he tweeted "Free Gaza" with the Palestine flag.
Yeah.
That on May 13th, that has 8.4 million views.
I mean, his hatred of Israel has an extra layer of spiciness on top of it. Bro, I like the Kanye West tweet. My career is over.
I liked it too. If you like, you have to imagine how Bibi Netanyahu, how Bibi sees this, Habibi. And how it's like, if the whole world is starting to turn against you, Europe is turning against you, Canada, the UK is turning against
fucking
you.
West.
And that was Kanye West doesn't agree with you. And that's kind of a crazy coalition you're building against yourself and your, genocidal religious zealotry campaign.
But
against human rights.
What was I going to say? I mean, his hatred of Israel, Kanye's hatred of Israel has
something else.
Hey, it has an extra layer of spiciness on top of it that ours doesn't. But I mean, hey, a racist clock is right twice a day. So, yeah, free Gaza. I agree. Free Palestine.
Yeah, free
Kanye.
Gaza, free Palestine. Let's get them to be their own state, and let's pry Jerusalem away from Israel.
Yeah.
Yep, they don't deserve it anymore.
All right, so we got some. Oh, look at that beautiful smug face. We got some right-wing trash for you. There is a lover spat brewing between Matt Walsh and Ben Shapiro over this Karen who said the N-word. And apparently Matt Walsh is all over it. I mean, you can explain a bit more with the GoFundMe or whatever that's going on.
If people listen to this are aware of like what the current zeitgeist in the right-wing circles is, you might be familiar with the Shiloh Hendricks case, where this white woman cussed out like an 8-year-old black child at a park, called him the N-word, and
America
attempted to raise money on GoFundMe or something because she's like, they hurt my feelings and I lost like
people don't like me because I said the N-word.
I'm sad now, I want to move. And the right-wing Nazi types were like, hell yeah, we're gonna give you money because you're standing up for free speech. It's my right to call children slurs.
Yeah,
and
that's America.
The picture depicted on screen has this lover spat as Matt Walsh being seemingly in favor of this fundraising effort from a miserable hag, and Ben Shapiro being on the opposite side, saying, actually, stop giving your money to crappy people.
Yeah, his big Martin Scorsese eyebrows are arched inward, which means he's upset. His big caterpillars on his face.
Honestly, the picture of
his caterpillars are angry.
The picture of him with his name written there, it almost looks like an album cover.
Yeah,
he's gonna sing some like.
And he's gonna do a cover
classic.
He's gonna do a cover of Ben.
Yeah,
the Michael Jackson song.
Yeah, that might be too woke for him though.
Yeah.
But
don't
intend to watch either of these videos.
No.
Somehow the Ben Shapiro one is an hour long.
How the hell is that an hour long?
The last thing I need to do, and so
it's
is
almost
the
an
Matt
hour.
Walsh one is almost an hour. Not worth it. How about we just ignore terrible people everywhere? Okay, so I think we're done with our sort of peering into the crevice of right-wing debauchery content. But now, once you look into the void, what do you do when the void looks back at you? You have to be willing to look in the void first.
Mm-hmm.
And so on screen right now, I have this little tweet thread from some person I saw, the name like CS Weens 147, who is just responding to a quote retweet from the recent Jubilee video.
Yeah, this all stems from the Jubilee video that was released a few weeks ago.
An LGBTQ activist facing 25 anti-LGBT people, conservative types, whatever. And so this is just a tweet thread of a person being like, hey, I got bored and jumped into a conservative debate Discord to see if I can handle this. And I've been here for 3 hours cleaning house. Should I go on Jubilee? And absolutely. Like,
yeah,
I commented.
I would not do well on Jubilee, but you would.
Oh, yeah, I would. I commented on this person's thing. I don't know if it'll show up here. But basically, I said, like, you have to be willing to confront these people. And we had there was a conversation I saw online like a week or so ago where a person was basically saying, like, yeah, the right wants to take away the human rights for, like, queer people and stuff. And why should we have to humanize ourselves to them? So that...
I mean, that's kind of the whole point of...
But they framed it very, like, deliberately maliciously to be like, well, you are saying that we have to humanize ourselves, therefore you're saying that it is okay for us to be dehumanized. And I'm saying...
That is so ridiculous.
That framing of it is like some sort of like victim mentality like thing where it's like you can't take the accountability and you just want to feel good pointing out the flaws without actually engaging with it in a way so that the person whose flaws you're pointing out actually has a chance to grow.
Yeah. It doesn't matter if it's okay, whether or not it's okay to dehumanize people. The point is we're currently in the process of being dehumanized.
Yes.
So of course we have to reclaim our humanity and humanize ourselves to people. How else do you expect for us to get our rights back?
Yeah. And this person who I saw doing this too, when the conversation sort of was like, okay, you're talking about how do we humanize ourselves in order to secure our rights as human beings. Well, there is a group of people that went through this very similarly in history about 200 years ago or so. And when mentioned, that person's instinct was to block. Because you cannot draw a parallel between the black struggle for rights in America with the queer struggle for rights in America. And
to even do so is considered racist somehow.
Yeah, apparently. And it's like the Civil War was started because a book was written by a white woman that depicted black people as having that sort of compassion for each other. And that book was called Uncle Tom's Cabin. And it was literally about an escape.
A book which is
slave.
A book which is considered racist by today's standards just because of the the aesthetics, I guess. It's not even like you're saying, it's a book that humanizes black people, but like that doesn't even matter.
It's the book that started the Civil War, because it's a book about a freed or an escaped black slave named Uncle Tom, who spends the book trying to help other like runaway slaves find safety. And the book ends with him getting beat to death because he won't give up the location of 2 women slaves that have escaped and were being like, assaulted. So this is a book that started the Civil War because it made like all these like wealthy, like literate Americans in the 1860s being like, hey, wow, I guess black people are human. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And so when you have a mouthpiece organization like Fox News, it exists, which I think we can all agree Fox News exists. Right?
They are certainly a news broadcaster.
When their goal is to dehumanize whole swaths of the population, specifically for political gain in creating a group to other, when, creating legislation that's meant to target people, you have to be willing to engage and fight for
Of course, you have to humanize yourself to these people. If you sit back
and just like take the high road, quote unquote, and cross your arms and be like, ha, those people are monsters, who's with me?
And then not do anything about it.
Yeah, and not actually
just close yourself off. Close yourself off in your little echo chamber. You're no better off than they are on the other side. They're doing the same thing. Nobody talks to each other and nothing gets done.
You're no better, but you're also worse at the same time, because they are actively putting that garbage out there into the world and attracting people and getting people to agree with them. That's dangerous. You're not there advocating your side, your cause.
Yeah, you're not speaking your piece. Yeah, you're not speaking your piece. You're just kind of retreating and letting the bullshit run rampant.
It's important to be engaged. Yeah. We are in a world that's increasingly run by older people because these, people are scared of getting involved.
Young people just don't want confrontation, so they don't take risks and run for office.
Young people can't even answer a phone call anymore. Young people can't even pick up the fucking phone. That's crazy. They won't answer a door. It's like, you really have to grow a pair. There's no other way to really put it. You have to be willing to put yourself out there, put yourself into this like political ring, or even just be willing to have a conversation with someone who doesn't line up with you 100% ideologically. Throughout all of human history, it wasn't that you were surrounded by clones of yourself, which is basically what it is now turning into with the younger generations, creating like Discord servers of like-minded people that if you even step out of line once, you're banished for life.
Yeah.
That wasn't the case before. You had to take the bad with the good. And people are so stubbornly trying to only look at the good now that their ignoring of the bad has allowed it to turn into the big monster that's going to come and eat them in the end of the night.
And how do you humanize yourself to these people? You talk to them and you engage. And that's how they find out that, wow, these people aren't so bad after all.
Yeah.
And that involves, going out of your comfort zone, going out of your bubble and talking to people who are maybe a bit closer to the center or even to the right politically. And I think it's possible to have a decent conversation with people like that. People who aren't like super radicalized one way or the other, who have like a mix of different opinions.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a big thing for me, for talking about handling the right, at least in this
is talking to them
of the video.
Yeah.
It really comes down to meeting them where they're at. And that sucks. Obviously, you don't want to like dumb yourself down. That's not the point. But it's sort of like if you're trying to explain a high concept thing to a child, that's how you sort of have to approach it. Because if you are trying to get someone to side with you, then you have to be willing to change the wording of the thing that you're pitching to them so that it specifically addresses their sensibilities. This is a very interesting conversational topic that is very much lost in a lot of modern debate. I watched a video about this somewhat recently regarding what's her name, Greta Thunberg. The environmental activist, and sort of the way that she, did her thing that went, the right wing still loves to use it. The how dare you thing.
How dare you? I mean, I used a clip of it in the last episode that we did,
but
it's a very viral, very memeable clip.
But the whole argument that she's trying to make there is she's trying to make the appeal to empathy. And in a lot of ways, when these left wing activists stay at home on their computer, thinking that, reposting stuff is the same thing as actual on the ground activism. I remember in the 2010s a word being added to the dictionary as slacktivism. These people are slacktivists. They are not on the ground. They are not doing anything. And they expect the argument of just basic human empathy to do all the heavy lifting for them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
not enough.
Huge mistake. You can't, because that's what is woke. Is the ability to have empathy for other human beings, other experiences, whether it's queer people, it's immigrants, brown people, black people, whatever it is. If they are different, then understanding them is essential to making an argument that appeals to them. You have to be willing to say, okay, you know, I get maybe that you don't like if I'm talking to a right-wing person, and actually this is sort of like a what's that word? This is sort of like an abridged version of a conversation I had while I was on the campaign trail, getting signatures even. I wasn't even a candidate yet, but I was talking to someone who was like, yeah, I don't know about all this LGBT stuff and the they, thems. And I'm like, okay, well, you know, I'm a queer person, but this person knew me as a child. So they mostly knew me as, you know, Nash and the little boy that was like, you know, in the household, the eldest child, all this stuff. But as an adult now, I'm like, okay, so let me explain this to you. You know, like, you know, the use of they, them as a singular adjective has existed, or as a singular pronoun has existed since Shakespearean times. You know, there's a lot of examples of this, and it's not that there's no special rights being granted. It's just the willingness to have a conversation about it. And this person is an older white woman, and she has no one queer in her life willing to have that conversation with her. And I sat down there with her and I had this conversation, and she understood things better. She's not like, you know, running out to go buy a they, them wedding cake for somebody exactly, but it's just opening that door, planting the seeds that like
you saw it happen in real time.
Yes. And when people are like blocking
so it works
online because people are not agreeing in 100% agreement with them, what that is it's toxic because it only reinforces your own like viewpoints.
Yeah, and this all started because, you know, people saw that you were interacting with people on like Telegram and stuff that, you know, are known to have views that are not your own and that are more towards the right. And it's like if you can't even like,
I'm not bringing my stuff.
No, I know, but like it's just the fact that like you can't even get caught talking to these people anymore without getting crucified. Like even that, can't even happen anymore. You can't even have a conversation.
In our sort of community that's separate from the podcast, our little interest group people, they're very much like of the mindset that if you are a Republican or if you voted for Trump, then you are no longer welcome in any of the spaces of the community. And unfortunately, like, let's just say if this community is Star Wars or something like that, something really big and ubiquitous, to draw a political line is really problematic because people don't come into whatever the interest is because of political reasons. People are drawn
because of an interest in the thing, whatever it could be, and that could attract to people from all over the world, all over the spectrum, political spectrum, gender spectrum, race spectrum, whatever. It's all a shared interest in whatever the community is, right?
Yeah. And in a way, when you draw or attempt to draw a political line in the sand regarding who can participate in an interest, what you then do is say that the only people allowed to enjoy or participate in the interest have to be of the accepted group, the ruling group. And, you know, and that's particularly why this conversation is so important right now, is that a lot of these hobbies and niche subculture fandom interests tend to be fairly dominated by LGBT folks and minorities in a lot of ways, but it's sort of like forgetting just how many straight people exist on this planet. It's like, I understand that there's a place for, you know, queer identity within subcultures and everything, but the Republicans won majorities in the Senate and the House, and they won the presidency. So if you don't start actually trying to address this stuff beyond still celebrating that gay marriage became legal 10 years ago, wow, good job. You know, if we don't,
the work is done, that you don't need to do anything else after that.
Yeah, that's to me, that's the really troubling mindset. Just thinking that the work is already done. And why aren't people just accepting our baseline humanity? Well, we are human. Why aren't they accepting that? Because it's not in the political interest of the party in which they are a part of to acknowledge that you are a human person with rights. So it really is that simple. And it sucks trying to convey this to the left because they just don't
listen. They stick their fingers in their ears.
They
like
don't
children.
know what it takes to actually assemble a coalition together. They love to eat their own.
Yeah, they can't stand aligning themselves with someone who's like a little bit less left than they are. To have views that are just a tiny bit different.
I have been like I've used the term like SJW and like virtue signaling, and I know that these are sort of 2010s coded, and they're like, oh, you can't say that; those are right-wing terms. But they feel very accurate to me because we have so many people in the modern left that are like literally just social justice warriors that just, you know, or that they virtue signal online for causes that make them look good and reflect good upon their character, but that they don't actually put the work in to further the causes like prevalence across communities of people that aren't just terminally as online as they are. And that's the problem, is they think that the work is done, and it's really not. They haven't done anything.
It'll never be done. There's always work to be done.
Yeah. And that's why we're losing ground, is because the fighters are too scared. We don't have enough fighters.
Too scared to do any actual fighting.
It sucks, but that's why we started this podcast.
Yeah.
It's literally why. So make sure you go out there and talk to people. That's very important. This is another screenshot of another tweet telling people, you know,
it's about planting seeds. Oh yeah, there's the
I used to have this mental illness where I thought logical arguments would change someone's mind. And this reply saying, that used to be such a source of frustration for me. Now I understand it's about planting seeds, even if we ourselves won't see them sprout. And that is the important thing, is it's just about planting seeds. You need to have the conversation with people so that when they are confronted with their viewpoints in the wild,
even if you end up losing the argument or whatever at first glance, like the seed is still planted there, you know, even if they don't agree with what you say in the conversation, they experience that different argument, that different perspective, you know, so the seed has been planted in their brain.
Yeah.
And it might never sprout, you know, but at least it's there, you know?
Yeah. And usually the people that they're talking about a lot of the time that are so caught up in this stuff tend to be very ingrained with it, that it does take a lot of work to even just crack the shell a little bit. Like I went to an event in California back in January, and I ended up having a 3-hour conversation with a 2-time Trump voter that had never lived outside California. And I just sort of shattered his entire worldview in those 3 hours. But at no point did he throw his hands up and say, you know, you're a liberal, like, loser, like, get out of here. You know, you're Canadian or whatever, then you're brown and whatever. No, like we actually had a legitimate conversation where I'm like, do you know this? Because this is a fact. Like you can look this up. It's not up for debate. And there were so many things that he just like did not even know. And that is scary when people think, like, especially again, the American main character protagonist syndrome mentality, where they think they know everything. They think that they're the best country, the best people, and that they already have it as good as it gets. So why fight for anything else? Why challenge anything? Why bother doing the research to see how much better things could be if we actually cared a little bit more? That's sort of what the point of having political dialogue is supposed to be. We have a mutual interest in making things better, do we not?
Yeah, we do. All right, so I guess that concludes our little rant today.
We didn't go quite as into this sort of theology of political ideology in the last episode, so I hope that this sort of like explanation of ways to approach different viewpoints that are politically kind of, you know, scary.
Yeah.
I hope that this is productive and that someone listening to this is like more willing to confront that family member.
Maybe this plants a seed in your mind. Who knows?
That's the idea.
Yeah.
We're trying to influence you.
All right, let's talk about some, let's get a little more lighthearted and talk about some stuff that we watched recently.
Some lighthearted media.
Some lighthearted media, eh?
That risque rascal, that far-out feline. Fritz the Cat is back in the 9 lives of Fritz the Cat.
All right, so Fritz the Cat. Oh my God! Well, Fritz the Cat 2. We are both very familiar with the first one.
Yes.
I just want to touch very briefly on the first Fritz the Cat. The first Fritz the Cat movie is like one of my favorite movies of all time. If it would probably be like Thief and the Cobbler #1 and Fritz the Cat at #2. Which is very funny because Richard Williams and Ralph Bakshi are both very like total opposites in terms of like creativity and like work ethic. But that's a conversation for another time. I love Fritz the Cat. I think it's hilarious. I love how edgy it is. And I also think the political satire of the film has aged rather well, and it actually ties in a lot with what we were just talking about, political slacktivism. Fritz is your typical leftist slacktivist who thinks that, like, you know, chanting slogans and singing a protest song on your acoustic guitar equals actual change.
He thinks that using the political movement of the time is a great way to get laid.
A great way to get chicks. And, he's kind of right, though, unfortunately.
Oh, yeah. He has his way with many women.
All the scenes with the crows, which, using the crows as like an analogy for black people.
About the first one?
I just want to talk about the first one real quick.
Yeah.
Just like when he goes into the Harlem bar and he talks to Duke and he's like, I studied the race problem in college.
I studied the race problem. See, I know.
You don't know nothing about the race problem. You gotta be a crow to know about the race problem. You know what I mean? Do you dig where I'm at? You know what I'm talking about?
I know what you guys are, what the struggle is,
Mm-hmm.
and he gets put in his place by Duke. Or later on when he starts a riot in Harlem, he gets on top of a car and like goes on this rant about, you guys are all being fooled by the bosses. They're riding around in limousines and eating strawberries and cream. And then he actually manages to get a real riot started. And of course he gets out completely unscathed, but his black friend gets shot to death. Yeah. And he doesn't even acknowledge it. He just screams, "We shall overcome!" And then he just bails. So yeah, this movie is a perfect example of like, I have a friend in the Communist Party of Canada who watched this movie with me, and they brought about the term adventurism, which is where it's exactly what it sounds like. You're basically cosplaying as like a real leftist crusader without actually getting anything done. So yeah, I think the criticism of the left and right in the original Fritz the Cat movie is fantastic. But we're not talking about that now. We're talking about Fritz the Cat 2, which is very much not a political satire movie. It's just a groovy movie with a lot of sex and drugs.
And good animation.
Yeah, it's more about like, that Fritz the Cat is back up to his old ways, that rapscallion, doing drugs and doing ladies. Oh yeah, that little rapscallion. Yeah. And I gotta be honest, the first time I watched this movie, I did not care for it at all. But it's been a couple years and I gave it another watch, and I gotta say, is it as good as the first one? No. Hell no. But if you partake in some substances and have a couple friends nearby to watch it with, it's a pretty good time. I had a pretty good time this time around.
Yeah, I was quite surprised by 9 Lives of Fritz the Cat. I was laughing pretty hard. The first one is definitely a lot more politically on the nose.
Has something to say, the first one.
Yeah, and this one, the first Fritz is very much like political themes first and then animation second, and this one is very much animation first and political themes second. So.
Political themes third, or fourth. I don't even think political themes second.
Yeah,
so it kind of takes a backseat to like the zany.
There's a lot of swastikas in this movie.
Oh yeah. Let's talk about some of what the plot of this movie is. So basically, the plot of the movie is spoilers for everything. Fritz is sitting on a couch getting high. His wife is nagging him for how much of a failure he is, and his life sucks. So I guess there's some LSD in that weed that he's smoking, because I've never smoked weed this powerful. Yeah. He starts to hallucinate different past lives of himself. And he just goes on these wacky adventures, one of which involves Nazis for some reason, because his name is Fritz, I guess.
Yeah, it's like a flashback, because there is like literally a furry Hitler in this movie.
Yeah, he's like what even is he? Is he a cat? I actually don't know.
I don't know.
Well, in his first life, he meets this hot Puerto Rican chick that he smokes weed with, and then he gets shot by her dad, I guess. While these two black crows outside kind of like comment on their love making and their drug taking.
Yeah, just out in the middle of the suburbs.
Yeah, and then of course we get the World War II flashback. I guess it's not a flashback. I guess this is all just a hallucination induced by laced weed while Fritz sits on the couch.
Hell yeah!
But yeah, it's confirmed that Hitler only has one testicle.
Yes,
and he tries to rape Fritz in the shower. Damn. Lovely time. Yeah. But yeah, this movie's a good time.
It was actually good. It's on Amazon Prime in Canada here, and I know that in the US, Prime only has the first Fritz.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's I guess that there is a little bit of political commentary when he goes to New Africa. There's a segment where all the American blacks have been quarantined into New Jersey, which has become New Africa, and we get to meet President Kissinger, which is that's the ultimate nightmare scenario for me.
It's not even constitutionally possible.
Well, I mean, look at where the Constitution is now. You think that it's not possible? Anything is possible.
President Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Look at him. Look how far he got in the American political system.
You're allowed to be a governor if you're an immigrant.
Well, there you go. But yeah, 9 Lives of Fritz the Cat. It's a good time. Not as politically poignant as the first one. Just kind of lower your expectations a little bit. And I think you'll have a good time.
Yeah, it was a good movie. I like Fritz the Cat, the first one. I like this one surprisingly pretty much. I would watch them back to back because I would put them pretty much at par with one another in terms of enjoyment and shock value. I liked it, so good for that.
First movie for me personally is like a 9, but I'm very heavily biased in favor towards this one and towards the first one. But this one I would give it like a 7.
I think I'd give the first Fritz a solid 8, if not a low 8, and then this one would be a solid 7 or a high 7. So it's very, very close for me.
Yeah.
Amber, my plastic surgeon doesn't want me doing any activity where balls fly at my nose.
Well, there goes your social life.
What else did we watch?
Clueless!
Like, oh my god.
Like, oh my god. So I was very hesitant to watch this movie for a really long time just because of how it looked. And it was exactly what I thought it was going to be. But also, surprisingly, it had some heart. So you're way more familiar with this movie, so I'll let you rant about it a little bit.
Yeah. I am a child of the 90s, but...
I'm more so a child of the 90s. I'm a little older than you.
Old
Yeah.
man.
Wow.
Yeah, so this movie, it's very, very 90s, and one of the most 90s films ever. And I haven't even seen all of the supposed 90s, like, teen films of the era. I've seen Mean Girls, but like I haven't seen all of them. Like I haven't seen American Pie. But this film stands out because it's very self-aware. It's aware of itself, and it's aware of the message it sends. One thing that I think makes this film kind of unique is that it's written and directed by a woman. And so there's a character in the movie that is a gay character. I'm not going to like spoil too much about this because it's a good movie and the reveal is also good, but it's not played for jokes. It's played like from the perspective.
It's not played the way that you would think a gay person in the 90s in a movie would be
represented. Yeah. So there's a lot of surprises in here. This is one of the earliest roles for what's his face, Ant-Man.
Paul Rudd.
Yeah, Paul Rudd's in here. Alicia Silverstone's in here. Fox News right-wing contributor Stacey Dash is in here. And Rustin Pepperoni, Brittany Murphy is also in this movie. And they all bring their A game. The script is super tight. Yeah, I love Clueless. I would give Clueless a solid 8 at
It was a
least.
pleasant surprise. I would give it like a 7, leaning towards an 8. I quite enjoyed it.
Melody time. Melody time.
Melody time! More Disney! I've got Disney Plus, can't you tell?
Yeah,
we've been using Disney Plus to watch some very obscure Disney movies. This is one I actually kind of grew up with. Best way I can describe it is imagine if Fantasia was a little bit more laid back and goofy, and not the character Goofy, but imagine if it was a bit more lighthearted and didn't take itself as seriously. You would have Melody Time. This was one of those movies that there was a period during like the near the end of World War II where Disney didn't have enough money to make separate films from all of these project ideas that he had. So he kind of just combined them all into these like Fantasia style vignette movies that are just like different short stories combined. And Melody Time is one of the more popular ones, I would say.
Yeah, it had lots of different segments, different singers.
Yeah, luckily Wikipedia has them all segmented into different things, so we can actually like talk about each little segment. Once Upon a Winter Time, I think it was just kind of standard romantic winter stuff. 2 people in a sleigh ride dancing. I think nothing really special.
Yeah, I don't
about
really even remember that one that well. It was the opening segment, but I see my birthday there. Wow.
Oh, wow. September
released
17th.
on my birthday.
Wow. Bumble Boogie was pretty fun. It was like a jazzy rendition of Flight of the Bumblebee.
Yeah, some cute Bumblebee animation.
Really good 2D animation.
Yes, very good.
Legend of Johnny Appleseed.
This is the one I've seen before.
Yeah. You want to share your interesting little tidbit of Johnny Appleseed?
Well, Johnny Appleseed was a real guy, and the reason that he was like spreading apple seeds around too was because he was trying to, propagate the brewing of cider.
Liquor.
Yeah, he was
alcohol.
He was an alcohol fiend.
Yeah, well, Disney most definitely did not go into that aspect.
I mean,
in
at
this little
point,
segment.
He's such a folk hero that part of his actual true historical, image has been kind of brushed over at this point in history.
Yeah.
So we just know him as the guy who grew a bunch of apple trees.
Yeah,
but
and that's the angle that Disney kind of goes towards here. It's just this guy planted apple seeds all over the United States, and then he died, went to heaven. This is probably the most like overtly religious
this was
Disney
a very
thing I've ever seen. Yeah, they're always talking about how much he loves his Bible and how much he loves the Lord is good to me.
Yeah, he's saying
and
a whole
so
song
I
about
thank the Lord. Yeah,
yeah, great accent.
Yeah, yeah, I quite enjoyed that segment. Oh, Little Toot. Okay, I actually grew up with a like a vinyl record storybook thing of this segment.
Wow.
About this little tugboat that like is a little too big for his britches and gets ostracized by his older tugboats for trying to bite off more than he can chew, kind of. But he saves the day in the end.
Yes, and the Andrews Sisters sing the whole time, and it's awesome. And I love the Andrews Sisters,
Yeah,
so
Andrews
it was a really
Sisters.
good little short.
That was a nice little Easter egg for you, I would imagine.
I like the Andrews Sisters.
Trees, I don't remember this tree segment at all.
No, I do not either.
Oh, and
Donald Duck.
Blame it on the samba. This is the bird from the Three Caballeros, that annoying little red bird that won't shut the hell up. Yeah. Oh, and Jose's in Jose's in it too. The green bird, our favorite green boy,
bird.
but not the red Mexican bird.
No.
He's my favorite. I would have loved to see him.
And then the closing short or the closing vignette, Pecos Bill. It's just a Texas boy.
It was live action, actually.
Yodis.
Yeah, raised by Stinky Baroos out in the middle of the desert. So yeah, this was a very nice, tidy little film. It was nothing too special. I'd probably just give it a 6 or something. I would much rather watch Fantasia because Fantasia has that real grandiose scale.
Yeah, I tend to put a lot of these films from the era of Disney in the same box, and I hadn't seen this one, and I liked Melody Time. I mostly grew up with Fun and Fancy Free.
Yeah, that's a
but
good one.
I liked this one. It had a lot of different scenes, and they weren't remotely connected, but they were all entertaining for the most part. And Fantasia, I just like, I don't know. I wish I remembered Fantasia a little bit better.
Yeah, you probably fell asleep when you tried to watch Fantasia.
Yeah, I like Melody
That
Time.
seems like a Nash falling asleep movie.
Wow, you don't know anything about that.
Yeah,
you're talking shit.
Wow.
Yeah, I'd give it at least a 6. It's not offensive.
All right, so yeah, we covered a lot of ground in this this next episode, eh?
Yes, I think we're all extremely woke now.
Yes. Hopefully the world is a little bit more woke. Hopefully some seeds have been planted in your minds.
Plant seeds.
Plant seeds in everyone.
Yes. Who are you, Elon Musk?
Yeah, right.
Wow.
All right, so that concludes the second episode of Woke in the West.
Yes.
I am Eric.
And I have been Nash.
And we shall see you in the next episode.
Yes.
Salute.
Goodbye.
Canada. We're going to go have a nice birthday dinner for my mommy.
Chinese food.
Chinese food.
I like
Chinese food. You know that it's true. I love fried rice. I love noodles.
Well,
I like too much of that song. I remember too much of that song.
Yep.
All right.